Let's go to Canberra now, and joining us live is the independent Senator Jacqui Lambie. Senator, good to see you. So there in itself is an example, I suppose, of how difficult this is going to be with all of its complexities.
It's extremely tribal, Pete, and here come the spears already. So this is our problem. Look, we've had the sorry, and I'm very grateful for that. We want to enshrine this in the Constitution, that's fabulous, but giving us the details after instead of beforehand is a real worry for me, and I'm surprised that Labor is doing that, because the last 9 years in government, they've always wanted the details up front, so that's a bit of a worry. The other thing is, mate, we're talking about all this, but we're still not closing the gap. Okay, we've met four. We've done 4 out of the 17 Indigenous things that are out there, and they're only just done. We have to close that gap, mate. There's some real awful stuff going out in those communities out there. Nobody seems to be talking about that. It's great. You can have all the words you want, but I want to know what it looks like when it gets put into practice. What is it going to do to close the gap? That is what I want to know, and I'm pretty sure many other people want to know that. I think if you don't give the detail before you run this referendum, I'm not sure that you're going to get the votes. You're going to have to be very open and honest with the Australian people, and you're going to have to take them with you. And if that's not done, then we have a problem. But as you can see, we already have an issue. We have an issue in Tasmania where we still have, out of 26 or 27,000 of us, there's still 12,000 of us there's still 12,000 of us, mate, that they will not recognise. We've got those problems in Tasmania, so that's at the lower end here. So it is extremely very tribal. That is the problem. So if we're all going to get recognised, then maybe the people of Tasmania and the Aboriginal Council down there need to start leading by example in itself, because I can tell you it is extremely divided in Tasmania, and it is like that right across the rest of the nation. Yeah,
so just back on your point there, and it's a pretty common question at the moment about the lack of detail before a referendum. It seems as though it's undercooked, because people would quite rightly ask, well, what precisely am I voting for here?
Yeah, and that's the problem. I can't understand why we've been having Black Caucus up here with the 5 of us for the last, certainly sitting in the last parliament, that we still haven't got that detail out there. That's extremely worrying. I am worried about the amount of, I'm not saying that they're doing anything wrong, but I have been worried about the amount of academics sitting around that caucus table and deciding how we go forward. That has been concerning to me, and not having the people on the ground actually up here to speak, and they think they're speaking on their behalf. I am worried about that. But let's get through this. Please give us some detail, otherwise you're going to set this up to fail. But you must give us some detail on how this is going to operate. Don't just give me nice words, mate. Don't give me symbolism anymore. I've had enough. Give me the guts of what it looks like.
So what detail do you want? What detail do you think is needed?
I want to know how they're going to close the gap, mate. That's what I want to know. I want to know what you're going to do in these communities, what services you are going to provide in the future to be able to do this. But I just don't want symbolism. Like I said, this is the first step. It's like saying sorry, it's fine, and this is great, and it is the first step to give people out there, especially the Indigenous people out there, some hope that we're going to be able to do this. Don't take that hope away from them. We need some more detail. Meanwhile,
you've got alcohol bans that are overturned. You've got cashless debit cards that are being overturned as well. And in most places, many would argue, well, how exactly is that closing the gap? How's that going to close the gap?
Well, this is what I mean, mate, especially those alcohol bans. I've been around plenty of those communities over the last 7 or 8 years, and I can tell you there is a big difference in those dry communities compared to the wet. There's your first thing. It's time to have a look at those, making sure that those liquor bans stay in place, and if need be, spread right across. A reduction in abuse and domestic violence in those communities that have those alcohol bans is phenomenal. So why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we out there doing that in those communities and making sure that they're dry communities? That'd be the first step forward. You're going to have to get tough. I will say this to the Prime Minister, you are going to have to get tough in some of these areas. They're really difficult areas, and you're going to have to put your foot down.
Just a final one here, Senator. The ACCC is warning of severe gas shortages over the next 12 months. because most of it is being sent overseas. Does the trigger need to be pulled to allow more supply onshore?
I would certainly be pulling that trigger right now, because if they're saying that we're going to be 10% less, and that's going to push gas prices up, there was a lot of people already out there doing it hard, and businesses. It is a worrying in itself. Once again, and I say this, and I will continue to say this is both major parties that have sold our resources off overseas for God knows how many years. Those resources, we should have done what we did with Qantas and made sure that 51% of those resources always stayed in Australian hands or government hands. That money should have been feeding back into our public health system and our public education system first and foremost. My goodness, the amount of money that this country could have made would have been phenomenal, and we'd all be paying less taxes. Wouldn't that be lovely?
Okay, Senator Jacqui Lambie, thank you for your time as always.